But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello and welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is episode 111. We've done this 111 times. Thank you for tuning in every single week and checking this out since the beginning. We appreciate it. This week's episode is about blockchain and whistleblowers. We were having some fun, heated discussions before this started, so get ready. This is going to be a great episode. Joining me, as always, we've got Distant, a.k.a. Dave, joining us.
What's up? That's me.
We've got Joe Dragon from Dragon Chain.
11D1.
11D1. Yeah, that's the episode. There we go. I was so confused by that. We got Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur and YouTuber extraordinaire. And we have Greg from Rivet. How's everybody doing today?
Yep, 11 years is too short a time to spend among such noble and admirable hobbits.
Exactly.
Thanks, Gandalf. I love it. Yeah, and my name is John. You can find out more about me at johnbranch.info, and that's the end of me. So before we jump into today's episode, let's take a look at what happened last week. Last week's episode was Quantum Computing and Encryption, which was nominated by I Am for I Am. He's going to receive 116 lot for that. Each week, each host from last week is going to receive 116 lot as well. And each topic contributor is receiving 116 lot also. As a reminder, these ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. And this week's episode, like we said, blockchain and whistleblowers, which was also nominated by I Am for I Am. So we can get straight into the first question. There's a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through all of them as always, but we're going to look at the first one right now. 8 minutes ago, I love how they can ask questions whenever. So like I'll look at it before and be ready for whatever question's going to come up. And then 8 minutes ago, I Am for I Am said, happy birthday to Julian Assange. His birthday was on the 3rd of July. There it is. So I don't know where the question is. Is Julian
It's a
Assange?
topic. Yeah.
Okay. So we talk about, can you discuss the impact of Julian Assange has had and his use of blockchain, etc. Yeah. So Dave, Joe, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, I actually wanted to know if anyone remembers when at the one time that I know he used it to great effect, which was super interesting. And I don't know the year. I'd have to look it up, but it was for a proof of life that he read the latest Bitcoin block hash out on a video. And it was funny because he actually somewhere midway or 3/4 through made a mistake and had to start over. Like he said the wrong thing. And it's like, because it's a very long number, hex number, right? So it was super interesting and something very dear to my heart, the way that it was used, because it was nothing to do with monetary or financial bullshit. It was, this is a way to prove reality. And it's such a crazy, it's such a huge thing historically.
Without the support of central authorities.
Yeah.
Because that guy cannot get anyone to talk reality except for the fucking blockchain when it comes to all the things out in the world that provide authoritative source.
It's pure objective history is what blockchain is.
Right.
It's funny. So
right. He could write messages on it, and as long as he's signing from his address, we'll actually know it's him when we look at what he says on the internet. Like
that said,
that's huge, right?
The use of it is that now the impact that he had in so doing was unfortunately radically nil. That no one has grasped this is what we should fucking be doing. This is what the newspapers should be using. This is what but why? Because they're all living in a freaking Orwellian universe where they don't want that objectivity. They do want the state to be able to change the history, so on and so on. So
there's a film I've got to point everybody at. It's a short film, Australian make, where the title of the film is Julian, and it's about 11 minutes long. What you get from this thing is literally this kid sitting in the back of the class while this girl to his right is getting abused by the bully, and he keeps raising his hand and tattling on the bully until the teacher's like, "Get out of here, you fucking tattletale. Go to the principal's office." Right? It catches the principal in a compromising situation and uses the power opportunity as leverage to make the principal side with him instead of his teacher. And fucking tastic. I mean, ultimately,
awesome.
I think sort of still poking at that reality in a way that's meant to put it up in a way that Assange built his thing, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Whatever the case is, like, it's pretty fucked up that he is still in Belmarsh.
Sean, do you have a favorite Assange moment or memory or thing you'd like to tell us about?
I really liked the drama was fun, you know. But it's I always talk about how depressing it is that literally like all the champions of everything that we that we're fighting for could all be taken out with like one magazine and a gun. You know, Musk, Trump, whoever, all anyone who's like on the other side. There's so few of them, but they're very loud and very powerful. And it was just it was cool to have him as like actually fighting instead of hiding or being beaten in jail and dying slowly. You know, and it's worse. It's I mean, I know that's probably what their whole goal was, to, you know, demoralize that movement.
Sure it was. Yeah.
They're doing it because they're just literally, he's like technically on display. Like, look what we can do.
I think that they would be foolish to the point of handing us an easy victory if they actually extradite him. Because there will be DAOs aplenty raising money to send people to just hound the places he's being kept. He'll have football stadium size crowds if they bring him to the United States. There are enough blockchain people that are cypherpunks too that still remember that he was one of the first people to talk with the people who invented the ideas that made blockchains possible. Like in the 90s, he was there, sort of part of.
I don't know. I think most of the Bitcoin world would argue that the only time they want to get in is if the institutional investors want to come in and invest in Assange. I don't think that they would actually care.
Dude. To hear those words, even, that's what I was talking about. I think there's still some people who still remember it. Oh my God.
But you can also tell the guy's a man of integrity, right? Like, he's not going to be somebody who you'll regret trusting like that. Not like our politicians.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
The interesting thing to me has been,
he's one of the last people that I can say like fully trust. Like, you know, everyone else does Musk have some kind of motive? Is he playing both sides a little? Trump, anyone you can pick out that I can think of. There's not many that are just 100%. Yeah, that's a good
Matt
guy.
Taibbi, the journalist, is really kind of, I think, on point with being.
Yeah, he was for a bit. Yeah, he was.
Dave, do you have
still there?
Dave, do you have a favorite Assange moment or Assange memory? Or
I was just listening to Sean. I agree with you, dude, to an extent. There's a scope of things where I would trust Assange, but I don't know. A lot of people end up as like I don't want to say like glorified, but you latch onto somebody and here's what I'm saying. I've been disappointed so many times that I wouldn't be surprised if outside of the scope of journalism that there's plenty of stuff that I wouldn't want to trust Julian Assange on. That being said, I first actually learned about who he was way back when I was looking into like encryption for like journalism stuff. He developed or co-developed this scheme called Rubber Hose, where it was specifically for journalists that needed to move data across, political boundaries where they were in danger. And this is a long time ago. I don't even think it's supported on today's operating systems and stuff, but it was really cool. You could encrypt stuff and you could hide it on your computer in a way that you couldn't tell that there even was something there that was hidden. Like, it's one thing to encrypt data, to encrypt files so that people can't read it, but it's another thing entirely to have plausible deniability to say, no, there's not even anything there encrypted in the first place.
Right. To make it
so this was my introduction.
Invisible.
This is before I learned anything about WikiLeaks or any of that. This is my introduction. And so I've been following a little bit his technical and his journalistic career since then. And the most impactful thing that I've seen with Julian's life has been this illustration of what it means to be against the state, I guess. And what I mean by that is look at like the most clear thing that I can point to is when you have the New York Times publishing things from Julian Assange in their paper, and it's heralded as journalism. But when Julian releases the same information, maybe a little bit more in bulk and less curated than the New York Times, but it's the same data, it's terrorism and it's evil and it's bad.
Well, that's
it's the same shit. One of them is touted as journalism.
Yeah.
One of them is slandered and politicized.
And his
one
one happens to reveal like,
and so when you start
shooting
like
journalists
that,
for fun from helicopters, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's very if you really study what's going on with Julian, and none of us really, most people in the world don't really know what's going on under the hood of most governments and most like controlling entities in the world. But if you look at the timing of
their motives are bare and vicious with Julian,
who was at threat, who was most offended whenever Julian started really being punished, to like locked up, throw away the key kind of thing. Everything was thrown at him, vilified.
He's been pissing off powerful people for
it kind of points to particular people. And it's interesting to me to be able to sort of be able to read the ley lines in a way to say, okay, this all stacks up and makes sense. Maybe we should keep an eye on these people. So that's a little bit nebulous maybe, but this is sort of, it's always been interesting to see as sort of something to keep an eye on what's happening with Julian. People that refuse to acknowledge WikiLeaks as an outlet of journalism, they have never published anything that wasn't true, for example. So I don't know. It's just it's fucking enlightening. It's very enlightening.
That should,
I'm sick, so I'll shut up.
That should be a whole movement. Just as like make side by side CNN, Fox, WikiLeaks. Who's published something that was untrue? Who has doctored something so it was true but not 100% true? So on and so forth. I'm sure that Assange will come out on top.
I think the problem. I think the
way you have to do it would be to decide what you're going to measure first, and then you hold the people that happen to be in that sphere accountable to what you catch, and you just make sure it goes on chain, like in a structured way.
There's plenty of things that come out and people are like, this is true, that is true. But then there's another organization that goes, that's not true based off of this little piece of whatever it is. So it's hard to be like, here's the absolute truth of whatever.
Right. Because you can do stuff like make sure everybody trusts that the sensor data isn't cheated, because the climate change measuring devices are all hooked straight from machine without human intermediary through AI into a blockchain.
And this is specifically where blockchain can come in and help.
I know we don't talk about stuff from the chat usually, but I am and brought the question up. I think it's one of the biggest things is why didn't he? Because there was talk that he was going to pardon Assange and he would be free. And
There's
I think this is much more of a bigger deal than everyone talks about.
there's a fucking episode of
at the time
System Update.
he was trying to do. He was
Show where
trying
he
to
talks
play
about
ball.
the inside of it.
Because this was the end of it was when he was the court of the election, and he didn't. There was talk about him freeing Ross. That wasn't going to happen.
No, he was going for both.
Law enforcement. That was law enforcement. He wasn't going to do anything to piss off law enforcement because that's part of his huge base. So Ross is off the table, but Assange, I thought he should have done it, but he was trying to make nice with the vipers of the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex, and they bit him. Of course, they bit him.
Right, because they turned their professional lie generating machines on.
Exactly, and if he would have, I think personally, if he would have pardoned Assange, cleared him of everything, that he would have got a greater ally when it comes to Assange and WikiLeaks. I thought if Assange knew he had more protection, I think it would have been a bigger deal. I think he would have had a lot more support from like underground shit to help fight.
I don't think he's gone yet, man. I think we've got a second act from the man coming in his life still.
I agree. There's a lot coming out about who's going to play the new James Bond. I think he's going to play the new James Bond villain. He just looks like an excellent candidate.
He's got the look.
It's the white hair and like still looking young, I think is what it is.
I figured they would give it to a Hemsworth because that's what they do these days pretty much ubiquitously.
I don't think they're Hemsworth. First of all, this show's not about that. There's one thing I know, and it's James Bond characters. One, it has to be a person that's actually British, and then two, it's going to be for like who's actually going to play James Bond or the villain. Because Hemsworth, he's always going to be a good guy, in whatever he plays. Anyway,
I'm not saying he'd do a bad job with it. I'm just saying they'd probably pick him. Like if they could have anybody,
it's fine. Yeah. Anything else anybody else want to say about Julian Assange before we go to the next question?
Just to reiterate that, what I said about this as being one of the places that literally blockchain stuff can help is just to be able to bring some sort of measurable sanity to the misinformation versus the facts, and at the very least to be able to point out fuckery more efficiently. Well, because we've seen infiltration, we've seen manipulation where there's things that have been changed after the fact. It's really handy to know what state data was in when it was dropped, as far as WikiLeaks being a whistleblower platform. I've personally heard a lot of people, because of how much of a discrediting campaign was turned on to WikiLeaks, a lot of people just turn off. They don't, even if something is shown to be like something's leaked and published on WikiLeaks, people don't trust it because they've been told oh, it's bad and evil and stuff. So if we could actually measure authenticity of data, whether or not the data itself is a ruse, but the authenticity of, yes, this is what was dropped.
Yeah. Here's an example.
That's a very big leap forward.
Here's an example. I got to share an example, which you can get on WikiLeaks right now. Right. You guys can totally go read Gary Gensler be obsequious to the Clinton campaign.
You can read that all you want.
Talk about how pathetic he's being.
You can read that all you want. But my point is there are so many people who will dismiss it out of hand to say, oh, it's probably not even true, or it's probably made up. Right. We're so used to that being the case that they say that, but that's just WikiLeaks says that.
Let's let Joe get in here. That
was one of the first things. That was one of the first things where people started doing that, to where now years later, it's literally, oh, it's CNN. I don't believe it. Oh, it's Fox News. No, it's fake. Everyone has
guys,
their own,
can you hear me, Chuck?
Mentality. I hear you. And it all started with WikiLeaks. I remember so long ago, I posted on Facebook. I was like, it's so weird to me that I trust this, terrorist organization more than I do my own government or stuff that's coming out in the media. I didn't even use the word mainstream media. It wasn't even a thing back then. So I think this was the first thing where it was a news source where people just turned it off. And now everyone is turned off to their own, to everything else except for their certain bubble of news information, whether it's NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, or Breitbart, BuzzFeed, whoever.
I'll bring up something that I don't normally bring up or don't normally tout, which is the financial aspect of crypto, and this is going to be a little bit of a long thread here, but it's essentially the thing that would have surprised me in the 80s, right, or in the 90s, if I looked into the future about right now, would be that the journalist organizations, the New York Times, all of these lofty journalist organizations have essentially left, thrown him under the bus, left him out to dry. They don't give a shit about Assange. Potential lip service. Generally, they agree with the government in doing.
They're all fucking jealous of him too.
Well, it's not jealousy.
As journalists.
It's not jealousy. They're all freaking operatives. They're all part of the fucking operation. And the reason that I'm going to say that the way that blockchain theoretically should be able to help, I think we've kind of lost our way quite heavily, is that would only be possible. What we're seeing right now is only possible. The complete ownership of all of the media by the state or whatever this multinational organization is that's doing all this shit is only because there is a source, a spring of unlimited monies. The Federal Reserve can print as trillions of dollars and use it however they want, on top of taking taxes from you. And what are they using that for? They're using it for war and they're using it for propaganda. Why? They don't want you to be against the bank.
Also,
like, oh, don't look at the banks. There's this trans issue. I know you hate gay people, so you better be against the trans people. They just want to divide the entire country, and they have unlimited funds to do it. And until you fix that issue, everything else is just fucked.
Well, I mean, it's probably going to collapse before it's fucked,
yeah.
Right? Really?
Yeah. That's what they're
just going to run into the ground.
It's a beached whale, right?
Yep.
And we just need to make sure we don't help it. So.
That said, I really think that when Assange gets here, they're going to see a groundswell of support that they didn't expect in the local populace for the man.
Yep. Yeah, there's one more thing too. Yeah, Bitcoin, when the WikiLeaks accounts were shut down. If you remember, it was an early discussion. Satoshi even weighed in on it about WikiLeaks early on and whether we should support them using Bitcoin. And Satoshi was not because he was against it, but he was worried that whether Bitcoin needed that kind of attention yet, that early, right? When it was such a small network. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the our next question. This one comes from I Am for I Am also. We know the power of blockchain, open, borderless, neutral, censorship resistant, and public. However, keeping the whistleblower's identity could be a problem. Question: if a whistleblower came to you, where would you tell them to post their information, and how would you tell them to do so? They can remain anonymous. Dave, where do you think they should go blow their whistle at?
Shit, man. There's complexity to that, and that's part of the problem. I mean, I'm a fan of the way that Snowden operated. He was very aware, as somebody who was working inside the surveillance apparatus, he was very aware that it's a dangerous thing to do, right? These are important tools that maybe this is getting away from the question a little bit, but it's important to have accessible, effective tools, safe tools to use for this purpose, especially whenever you're going to have nations that are in an arms race to develop better and better propaganda and surveillance machines, just as a necessity of the type of war that we're in today. When those start turning internal and being used domestically, the only way to safeguard against those weapons being used against the country's own people are these types of whistleblowers that will come out and say, "Hey, no, they're using it on civilians." So it's a good question. Like, where do you blow the whistle? I know that if you look for it, you can find dead drops for like the New York Times and other papers on the Tor network. You go to I think it's torbrowser.org, or look up the Tor browser and look for dead drops. They exist where you can anonymously be assigned a username at random, and then you can log back in to communicate with journalists. There is WikiLeaks, literally. We were just talking about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. That is specifically set up for people to safely be able to drop things. None of them are using, that I know of, are using like blockchain timestamping for data integrity with hashes and stuff. I would love to see that. If anybody knows of an example of that, let me know. So that's what I think.
Great.
Me,
Yeah, Greg, you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah,
where would you
no.
tell people to blow their whistle?
I think that people should probably really carefully assess where they go, depending on what they've got to leak, right? You see a ton of quote leaks all the time that are authorized leaks, right? Where somebody's job is to pass things that would normally be top secret to some journalist in exchange for them telling the story like they want you to, right? That's where a lot of the, like, when you hear officials confirm whatever, like shit. But if you were going to use any kind of blockchain-based system, you'd want to stay anonymous completely. That would be my advice to them. Stay anonymous. Make the initial posting sufficiently authoritative that it can stand on its own without a witness testifying that it's valid.
Great. Joe, where would you tell people to go post their whistleblowing?
Wow. I mean, everybody knows that, 4chan's compromised, so you can't really post something truly anonymously there. You can't post on any of the major social networks truly anonymously through VPN or otherwise. I would say build your own VPN, build your own bank, build your own platform, and then start whistleblowing on your own platform. That's probably the way that they would have us do it, right? No, I mean, it's like essentially you'd have to host your own damn file server on an oil platform somewhere with what I guess you could maybe get a burner phone and some Visa gift cards or something and do all.
You can dial it up, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's, I would say basically just prepare to martyr yourself and, be advised there, you might have to deal with some stuff, but you'll be a hero in time, right? You'll be a saint in time. I mean, I think in the end, Assange has secured a position historically, provided we get out of the mess that we're in. And he'll either be a massive saint or a villain in the future, either which is probably worth the effort. Is it? It's horrible what's happened to him as an individual, and probably what's worse is what we are learning about the human race in seeing what's happening to him, because we're learning how freaking weak humans are, right? And or how long it takes for humans to freaking stand up and do something. So,
I think the best place to blow your to be a whistleblower at is you go to the local country club, okay, and you tell all the moms that are there playing tennis all a little different part of the story, and they're never going to know actually where it came from. And you go to all the different country clubs in your state, and then soon they'll get out. It's going to be some version of the truth, but that version will be out there.
So you literally drop elaborate variations of lies at country clubs. So that the gossipy
none of them are lies.
women of of the state who spend their time at racket clubs.
You tell one little block of the chain to all of them. So when they put it together, they have the truth, but nobody's going to say where they got their source.
No, Jane, I heard this way.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
wait,
Right.
what about this?
And yeah,
Well, I mean, like
Buffy at the club was telling me the other day.
exactly.
Like if you put in a set of GPS coordinates, for example, when you submitted information to a block,
Geocaching, bro. Geocaching whistleblowers.
I will wait for Sean to weigh in, but I have another idea. I have another idea. It might be pretty.
Oh, I would just tell them to. I'll get with one of y'all. That's where I'd send them your way. As soon as they ask me.
I'll take
really
it.
honestly, the best place to go would probably be like Glenn Greenwald. You know, like dude has a public key published. Like you don't even have to teach him about encryption. He already knows. Dude helps whistleblowers. That's where I'd go if I was completely wanting to be guided.
I'll tell you what not to do. Don't go to some random hacker that you heard about on the internet in a chat room and tell him all about it.
Yep.
Don't, you know, and
Go
don't
to the New York
and don't
Times.
do it. Don't do it just because you're like. It's a different conversation, I guess, but it's related. The most recent guy with the Discord server that was leaking to the top secret documents from the Pentagon to his Minecraft buddies, right? I feel like he was just trying to be cool. He thought it was cool to leak secret documents. Manning, unpopular opinion maybe, I think is a douche because the dude was just like trying to get. If you look at the initial conversations in the chat, if you look at like some of the reasoning, it was vindictive. It was to get back at a superior. Now, granted, the cables
Did
and
corroborate,
the evidence of war crimes,
corruption
all of that,
story,
yes,
didn't it?
yes, those things needed to be leaked, but I don't think that the motive was necessarily virtuous or whatever the term is. Snowden, I'm a big fan of Snowden, was more like sacrificial. He knew he was ending his way of life. He didn't expect to get away with it. And it was
He wasn't sure they
it
were
was
gonna kill him
it
and
was a
his-
big
and
enough
his
deal for
family,
him
you know.
to accept that, right? And I'm sorry for like throwing shade at whistleblowers on a
Real quick.
whistleblower conversation, but
Speaking
some of them
of-
I don't think had the right
Speaking
attitude.
of Snowden
The
versus
crazy thing
Assange,
are the
you
ones
guys-
you don't hear about, like the ones we haven't talked about because they're not famous. And there are thousands of them. People who put their lives
do
on
you
the line
guys
to tell the
do
truth.
you guys
every day.
lend any weight to the Intel org's Civil War theories of Snowden in particular?
Yeah.
Some people think he was a CIA operative that went over to NSA to do a leak, and I'm like, I've always
No.
wondered, and I've never heard an answer to that.
That would be insane. Plus, that would have also been the story that they smeared him with right out of the gate.
I think that
You think
Snowden's
if it
own
was the
account.
CIA? Because I don't think. I mean, I think the CIA controls the freaking media, so I don't think they.
I don't-
Valerie
I don't think
Plame
so.
got exposed because her husband said something that pissed him off.
If you've ever worked in government and in you know TSSCI environments, which I have, Joe, I think you have.
Mhm.
If you read Snowden's own account in his permanent record, the book Permanent Record, it's plausible as fuck. Like that seems like how it happened. There's nothing that I read in there that sounded like it was like you know, a made up story to just make him seem like he was not an agent or something. I do take him for his word. I think that he did it for those reasons. So
Yeah, I mean, okay. But and then I would say though, so my other idea, and it isn't go to the New York Times because that's probably the worst place that you would ever go unless you want it to be not posted somewhere. Yeah, don't post it on Minecraft. Oh, just build a freaking building and tons of the signposts to leak the whole thing on a public server. No, why not put out an album with music lyrics? It'd be art. I don't think
there you go.
they could come after you if it was just music lyrics.
Well,
right?
you would think so, but we've seen numerous rappers get arrested based on
yeah, but Trump will pardon them. By the
lyrics
way,
in a song that described a robbery or something.
We'll
you
go
know?
right back
If
to
they
this.
successfully put away
he's not gonna pardon
Assange, then yeah.
He's not going to pardon Assange, but he will pardon every freaking rap star that ever comes to his desk, right? So
you guys need to
what Trump
watch
did.
the System Update episode where they talk about this because he has fucking Greenwald has fucking Snowden on, and they're talking about like all of the specifics of that time period. You get a lot of insight into this very topic. It's fantastic.
The other way I would leak something is go to the Chicken Soup for the Soul book club that all the moms have, and then go to them and let them know, and then they'll keep your secret to the grave if it's true, because they're reading Chicken Soup for the Soul. They believe in a higher power that's going to come back at them. So just watch out.
I love how all of your solutions are like finding groups of moms. It's an entirely different type of MILF hunter.
That's it. I'm really into cougars, but in a completely different way. Great. Yeah. Anything else about the question that we want to talk about?
I think somebody ought to come up with a better way to red pill those people, because, and whether or not you like the term red pill, I don't care. But the fact that so many people are so asleep about all this stuff, they don't know anything about Assange, they don't know anything about Snowden, they don't know anything about Dread Pirate Roberts, and they should. I mean, if the founders were alive, they would support all of them.
If nothing else, it's a fascinating story.
Yes.
And honestly, sight unseen, not knowing any of the stories, you ought to support any hashtag that starts with free and somebody's name. Just by a knee-jerk reaction. If you have no other information, getting somebody out of the clutches of
but
authority bent on punishing them is probably a good
land
cause.
of the free, and we have by far more people in prison than any other nation on earth, and it's pretty bizarre, right? Speaking of free,
have you been back to the System of a Down Toxicity album recently?
I have not.
The only thing that they don't get right about that song is Beyond the Staples Center, because it's now the Crypto.com arena. But
wow. There's some interesting stuff about that album and when it came out. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into that. It's pretty creepy, crazy, weird stuff.
There's a lot of truth in music, man. Truth in art, for sure. Yeah. I remember, there's a lot of things I came around to later in life, like Nas. I wasn't really into Nas at his prime, but going back and listening to some of his albums, it's like, damn, there's some shit in here that's like, if you were to really, I don't know, it's poetic. I love that kind of thing. I do want to talk about blockchain some more, though, because we talked a little bit about how difficult it is to safely drop information. This is one of the reasons that you've got projects like Filecoin, projects like IPFS, like Siacoin, like Storage, these decentralized storage networks. They're not in themselves set up to necessarily be impenetrable and anonymous in every case, but it's this idea of being able to have infrastructure that just exists without it being managed by somebody who somebody can point a gun at, or somebody can go, turn off their power or murder in some cases. You've got projects like Flux, I think they're called, where you've got the host server itself is just a whole bunch of duplicates of a Docker container on Kubernetes, where they're just sort of in the cloud, but the cloud is hosted by people running service nodes on a blockchain. And you've got infrastructure being built like on the Oxen, powered by the Oxen blockchain, where you have LokiNet, which is basically, if you take the concept of Tor and you make it so that you incentivize good actors, and you have to stake some sort of valuable scarce resource to be able to run a node in the first place. And the only way that you get paid out is if your node doesn't de-anonymize traffic. Solving problems that come with centralization is something that Bitcoin started. And I hope one day the Bitcoin, Bitcoin only community will start to realize that what they started can be applied to so much more than just money to fix things.
Well, you can also do
anything you want.
You can also use it to build an anonymous factors of identification capability into the internet, where you don't have to expose who you are, but you can tell people, for instance, that you have this security clearance, or that you have been working somewhere for a certain period of time. You shouldn't have to tell people your name and your geographical location right now on whatever device you're on, in order to tell people that, yes, I do work for this agency, so this is legit information. Right? Like decentralized identity and factors of identity in particular are really powerful. And I think blockchain can bring that about.
And something, and I asked to bring this up, something that blockchain should be used for is something like this current situation where the Biden administration has announced on July 4th that the JFK assassination documents will be held indefinitely. And they cited military purposes, law enforcement purposes, national security purposes, and essentially somebody needs
because they don't want to boost Kennedy.
Well, it's beyond that. I mean, that's I think the narrative that's the most obvious, but I think it's because we have current allies that were involved, and I think that we have an FBI that was directly involved, and we have other intel orgs that were directly involved in a coup that we've been living under ever since. So it's an interesting thing to put out on July 4th.
It really is, isn't it?
It's disgusting.
It's kind of like a big fuck you in a way.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is. So anyway, and
it would have to be something like that, right? I can't.
Well, there was also that legal ruling, right, that came out on the 4th that said that they were going to basically.
What would that?
Good news.
What would that be about? Because I can't think. I don't know everything. I don't know most things, but I can't think of anything it would be besides a completely disruptive revelation and what went down as far as international relationships and.
Dude, they totally killed him.
Yeah.
That's what.
But the question is,
wild.
We know they did. We just don't know who they is.
Yeah, but like,
a group of them.
Here's my thing,
man. They have a pretty good idea who they might be, though.
Why don't they just release something fake? Why say indefinitely? We can never tell you.
Because they've tried that how many times? How many? There's a Warren Commission. There was what was the second one? They've already tried that a few times, and it just.
But in saying that they're never going to release them,
tell people
they're saying
the truth.
Sure, no, I agree with you for sure. But like when you're saying we're never going to release it, they're saying there's more to the story that we haven't told you.
Yeah.
They're not saying no, we told you everything. Mm-hmm. Which seems like if you're going to cover it up, why wouldn't you just say we've told you everything?
Like, there's
if they're not releasing it, there's like some name in politics or government who's implicated.
There's no way you can tell me it's for law enforcement reasons when anyone from that time that was doing anything illegal was probably dead. They're probably, in their 40s, 30s, any kind of mob connections. There's whole, nations that have risen and fallen in that time period. There's nothing
somebody with inconvenient knowledge
except the big conspiracy stuff. It just lends itself to every huge conspiracy because the only things that are still around are the CIA and the, any of the big players in any of the conspiracy theories are really the only things that are around. Yeah. Even the mafia is dead compared to what it was.
Domestic and foreign intel.
Are they?
And the FBI, and politicians are all now dead too. So, but the problem is what still remains are those organizations, the domestic and foreign intel organizations that were involved are still there and would probably result in either a revolution or a massive foreign relations debacle and probably war, right? So
yeah. I mean, it could be particularly destabilizing too. I know that's what they're worried about. They're worried about people like lighting more buildings on fire. But
so the anonymous stand, the only person that because I made that post, the only reply to it was this one. I think there were no more, right? So U.S. military somehow involved, intel, direct CIA, law enforcement, FBI, foreign relations.
Who here has an elaborate theory about how this actually plays out? Like pretty well worked out in your brain.
I think people are, unfortunately, the people that this is like the TikTok effect, right? Where things are so like quickly changing, like everything's so attention spans are so low. This is a pessimistic outlook, but I think a lot of the people that really care about that are going to die, and the younger generations are going to grow up thinking, "Oh, that's something that happened a long time ago." Weird.
I think it's going to be the area.
People aren't going to care anymore.
I think you hit that nail on the head. The only reason that they're not releasing it is because people care. Actually, the wrong people care. The people that want to do something. It is this is what turned my life
It's
around.
also seriously Joe Biden's call, and one of the people he's running against happens to share a last name and close familiar relation.
But
that
dude,
has to matter.
Every president could and didn't. So, as a kid, growing up, Area 51 was like a big deal. You know, there was like movies about it, and it was huge to me. And whenever they came out and admitted, yeah, there's an Area 51, it was like a joke. People were like, we knew it. And they had killed people. They had ruined scientists, lives, people that could have benefited humanity with their minds. They destroyed them. And to me, it was like, that's a huge thing. And I was like 12 or 14, you know what I mean? And nobody cared. And I think Dave hit on the head. Once people that care enough to do something about it and to push for something to be done, and people that get spanked, that's when it'll come out, and people will be like, "Yeah, we knew it."
I think a lot of it might literally be that if you anybody that you've dealt with, that you could call them NPC, you could call them certain relatives that are still programmed. You cannot break them away from. No, the New York Times said this, NPR said this, NBC. I watched This Week. I watched any of the Sunday talk shows in the morning, and they still believe that shit, and there's no breaking them from it. And this is probably one of the few things that would cause that to break, because they are so fully programmed. Yes, there's some conspiracy theories. Who knows what happened? But they've accepted it, right? He died, whatever. I think if this were to come out and it was literally our own and the people that we're dealing with right now in the world, then everything might change, right? Because all of a sudden,
my prediction is that it already has, and we don't have a good sense of the scale. I think we're looking at a carcass of a tiny dying animal, teaching ourselves that it's way smaller than us. Like the whole world is kind of awake on its own right now.
Yeah, I do like that meme, and if essentially that the difference between the left and the right is that they're both they're both dealing with a dead carcass that is America, and they're just dealing with different ways. So
I've got a theory on why it's not being released. I think Joe asked a group of moms and told them what was going on, and they all said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Probably.
And didn't have anything nice to say, so that's why he's doing this.
It's true.
Can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. There it is. Sounds good.
Sounds plausible.
I think that's real. I think you got a bunch of moms in a room and they were like, look, you can't tell anybody this. It's not very nice. That's where it is.
I'm sure it's related to that reason. Like, oh man, nothing good can come of this. We can't release this. Like, that's a related reason.
That's my real answer is there's no reason to have, I think a very big military thing too, especially is if you don't have to do something, you don't do it. So unless somebody's you have to do this, you don't tell people. You don't tell people what codes you've encrypted or what encryptions you've hacked or anything else. You don't tell anybody any information. You don't have to tell them.
Yeah, you don't show your cards
ever, unless it's for political reasons. So it's kind of right. Well, I don't have to do this, so I'm not going to do it. And who's going to tell me to do it?
And Snowden didn't want his girlfriend, getting extraordinary rendition to interrogate about his whereabouts. They were going to take his colleagues into they pull your nails out if you don't tell us everything you know room. He actually gave a damn about the people he worked with. Yeah, it's probably part of the curse.
I don't even know what kind of thing would be a big deal anymore. Sean was talking about the Area 51 is actually a real thing, and that being less of a big deal than we thought it would be after a little bit of time, maybe. But even more recently, I thought that the UFO thing would have been a huge deal. When there's so there's two possibilities that exist right now. Either they were lying to us back in the Project Blue Book period, or they're lying to us now, right? One or the
I'm
other.
gonna go with all of the above.
And so like for everybody to be like so the New York Times published the thing on the Tic Tac thing, and later on, a couple of years later, the Pentagon was like, oh no, that's legit. We have the same things. We actually have higher resolution ones, but those are real. I thought that would be the biggest fucking thing on the planet. And I was started asking people like, oh, dude, did you hear about the UFO thing? The Pentagon said that totally like is not fake. They they don't know what it is. It's not the Chinese. It's not the Russians. It's not us. We don't know. And everybody was like, just tuned out. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah,
I've got a bi-weekly
still
booster plan and a bag full of face diapers for anybody who says these people aren't manipulating us.
Like, granted, a lot of people did like go into a frenzy. Usually they had podcasts and stuff, but regular people in the street didn't either know about it or didn't care.
Dave, something really here's just throwing this out there. It's a really weird thought, but maybe most people are very dumb and just can't process stuff. It's a sad.
They care about different things. I wouldn't say they're
very
dumb.
elitist and wrong to think this. But I've seen it. It's like you said. It's shocking to you. Trump, the audio that leaked. The Pentagon has been working on this plan to attack, here, attack Iraq, attack this, Afghanistan, and then to go to war with Iran, attack Iran, and make it. They're just making their way through. They're like a teenager, a college kid backpacking through the Middle East and killing everybody, and everyone's like, oh my God, he told someone that. No reporter's like, this was the plan of the government. It's like oh, that's too big for us to think about. They're working on nuclear weapons, and that's
at the same
for that part, and we'll focus on this. And it's like, dude, did you hear what he said? You know what I mean?
Granted, there are contingency plans for everything you can possibly think of, even stupid shit. Even domestic stuff. Even like, here's how we blow ourselves up. There's plans for everything, just in case they got to take it off the shelf.
Honestly, I can see the five of us sitting in a police station. Someone coming in a police station in Texas. Someone coming in and saying, I have murdered 5 people today. And every cop in the place is like, oh my God, your accent is so weird. And then walking away.
You mean just not caring about the substantive part of it?
I said the killed 5 people. Dude, I'm going to crack up if you say that again. Your accent is nuts. Get out of here.
Well, you've told me plenty of times, Sean, like the things that whenever I'm really surprised that more people don't care about the things that I care about. Most people aren't like me. I'm kind of a weirdo.
Do you guys know the history piece on what happened during the Cold War with these vessels that were supposed to be doing deep sea mining, essentially? That Howard Hughes was a big part of this. That he had built this vessel that a center piece with some type of it was almost like a drill, but it was instead to go down and pull up from sea wrecks because there was tons of gold and tons of other stuff, right? And so Howard Hughes was out here doing this stuff, and so there were multiple countries that put significant portions of their GDP into copying this because there's Howard Hughes is doing. He's a genius. There's a ton of money down there. Let's go get some. And as it turns out, it was entirely a psyop, and he was the front for an operation to pull up a Russian nuclear sub that had sank, right? And so if anybody just looks at the same model with UFOs, and I think that this is entirely, they have patents out there about some of this stuff. They have all this crazy stuff that I guarantee other countries has behind the scenes spent tremendous sums of money trying to emulate or trying to figure out what is going on, thinking that we have these alien ships or something. And so
if they're saying that they have them and they haven't landed it on the damn House lawn in a press conference yet, then it hasn't happened as far as I'm concerned.
And there's something to me. It's like it's obvious, and I think that was the reason it wasn't such a big deal, is that so many people now recognize false flag / psyop mechanics
Just bullshit,
that everybody
right?
kind of
Like,
questions. Is like, well, wait, what's really happening? If you're gonna throw the
they could have
alien,
flown the damn things over Disney World for the 4th of July. That would have been a really cool move. Can't go wrong with it, really.
There's something going on. So
I think they
And
would
I
have
think
just
they
thought
would
it
have
was
if
part
they
of
actually
Disney.
had them.
If you,
My thinking, honestly.
if
Well,
you
there's
fly-
special
Show us
effects.
your
Wow.
engineered spaceships, U.S. military.
you
It looks
can't
so
fly,
real.
you can't fly spaceships over Disney. They're just gonna think it's part of Lilo and Stitch or something. Like you have to fly it over somewhere else.
No,
No, just do it as fast as they are. You could tour every fireworks show in the country and take a picture of each.
There you go.
well, and the funniest thing, and maybe this isn't funny. This is maybe controversial. The funniest thing to say right now, and I'm surprised, John, you didn't take this. Yeah, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know, even if they kidnapped kids at Disney, because but people think that's just Disney, right? So
Oh, the UFOs.
Lisa,
Wait, you were surprised I didn't
Well,
say the
there's-
thing about kidnapping kids at Disney?
There's
Yeah,
a change
we all
into
know
the,
that-
into
we all
the
know
ride
that's my
system
thing.
as
no,
Well,
that's the
I'm trying to
funniest
cross.
thing that could have been said right then.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was like, I usually got a thing for moms, not kids, but all right.
No. There's nothing about it. I'm not gonna get into any of that. I'm just saying.
That wasn't aliens. That was Disney. That wasn't aliens at all.
Yeah, it was
You
like
know what,
a-
Joe? I saw it, but I was leaving that one for you. Okay,
I
leaving
think
that
it's
for
far
you.
more interesting what's going on right now with respect to things like that journalist who's been apparently imprisoned in the Ukraine for the last 2 months.
Yes.
Right?
What
Like,
gives?
where's this whistleblower?
Yeah. Well, it's
And
where's
the administration
times on that?
knows about it. They're just not doing anything. Like they could call up that dude could call Zelensky and stammer out, let the journalist go, and that would probably be enough to make it happen.
He probably looked at his watch and said, if that $1 billion not in a bank is not going to be in the bank tomorrow if you don't keep that guy jailed.
Does he play basketball?
So I want to play a little game before we get out of here. Something really quick. I'm curious how well, if somebody were to leak information, just with audio, how well would we be able to identify the whistleblower? Okay, so I'm gonna just play an audio clip, and you got to tell
You
me
mean us? Like
Yeah.
us identify
who the whistleblower is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So here's the. I'm gonna hope this does well. This is gonna be a test for the rest.
John
of
found some
ever
AI
doing
voice mimicry machine.
That's what it was.
That's
or
awesome.
not. We'll find out.
For the first time in human history, it's both technologically and financially feasible for governments to track and store nearly complete records of our private lives.
Who is that?
Snowden?
That is Snowden. I am for Am. Keeping points for everybody. That's a
Wow.
bingo for Sean. All
Good
right.
job, Sean.
Who
Okay.
is this? Who's this?
My rule, and I pass this on to people, is get there an hour or two before the editors do in the morning and start calling around or go someplace and then say, I have this story I can finish it by deadline, or if you give me 2 days on it, I think it's really a good story. And they were delighted to have somebody leaning into the news or possible stories. And so you could do lots of stories. I've never gone back and counted, but I know I did dozens and dozens of stories, front page stories on this or that I ran into. And
Who do we know who that is?
Is that Robert? That's not Robert Perry, is it?
It is not Robert Perry.
I am 4am says what's his name?
Yep, it is
Oh,
Bob
Deep Throat.
Woodward, the
Thank
Watergate reporter. I am for I am gets that point. Good job. Good job. I am for I am. All right.
It's a
Here
good clip,
is-
man.
What?
That's a good clip. I like that segment you picked out for us to hear.
Production value is very high on this show. So here's the next one.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
specific.
The hell is that? This bitch will solve all your problems. Yeah, maybe for 10 seconds. Time to vote it on!
Samuel Jackson.
Who is
Time to
that?
mow the lawn.
Samuel Jackson, isn't it?
It is not Samuel L. Jackson.
Dolph Lundgren was there. I recognized him.
This bitch will solve all your problems.
Famous whistleblower.
Chelsea Manning.
No, it's a joke. It's someone who blows a whistle.
I love how over it Sean is already.
Yeah, he was talking to Dolph Lundgren. It's not Schwarzenegger. Who was Lundgren in a movie with?
I'll give you a hint. You're really close.
Tropic Thunder?
It is not Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, well, he said Vietnam comedy.
The famous Whistleblower is built like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. If that helps.
How's he a whistleblower? Was he a lifeguard? Did he have a whistle? What's going on here?
It is Terry Crews. Terry
fucking Crews. Okay.
Terry Crews famously plays the flute. So just so you know, Terry Crews, famous whistleblower.
Yeah, no.
All right. We've got two more. We've got.
I love how you do that curveball at us and manage to insult flautists at the same time.
I didn't insult flautists.
You called it a whistle.
They will fight you.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like that. But,
all right. There's two more left.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan.
That's a slide.
The goal.
That is Julian Assange. You got that one. Good job. I think Sean's kind of running away with it. It was hard finding good audio of just him without other people talking over him. So here's the last one. This is for, I don't know what our points are. I was going to look at it. I am for him. You got to let us know what the points are, buddy. This is the last one.
He's trying to win.
For Z points.
Right,
sitting on the park bench by the little girl so well.
It's Jethro Tull, and you are in student.
He's not Jethro Tull though. That's the band.
That's true. What is his real name? Does anybody know his real name?
He was the lead singer or the flautist?
Oh, but he did transition, I believe. Right? Is that? No, maybe it was their bass player. I don't remember, something weird, but.
From what I know,
doesn't help me remember the name though.
Yeah, from what I know, he's still him.
The lead singer or the flautist? Who are you asking about?
The guy. I don't know. I just want the answer to be Jethro Tull because I thought that'd be
Jethro
funny.
Tull.
Yeah, that's right. That's good enough.
That was Mr. Pink Floyd.
I said that too. So, but
you both can get points. That's great. I love it. I think his name is Ian Anderson, but I'm not sure.
He's the only constant member of the band, right?
And the singer was the flautist, correct?
But the lineup rolls otherwise for the most part. It has for a long time.
Yeah.
The second best rock flautist there is, next to Ron Burgundy.
I once had to take a road trip with my boss and I'd never heard any other Jethro Tull songs until that road trip. I was like, they don't have other songs. That's the only song they have. What are you doing?
I totally forgot about the Anchorman flute scene. I wish I put that in there now. Oh, well, this is what we got. Well, that's been our show so far. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, talking blockchain and whistleblowers. This week's theme. Next week's theme is going to be the Hinman emails. I'll break out my presentation I had from that last time. It'll be great. Dave, anything you'd like to plug or let people know about?
What do I want to plug? Man, I'm gonna plug WikiLeaks. I'm gonna plug Edward Snowden's permanent record. Literally just that book. Check it out. Go steal a copy if you can't afford it. Read it. Just read it.
Joe, anything you'd like to plug and let people know?
No Den.Dow call today. We're in next week. We should have one. Legalfund.dragonchain.com. If you have any spare crypto or cash or any money burning a hole in your pocket, it'll go to good use there. And we have to defeat the SEC before we can fix everything else. So anyway, that's on its way. And the eclipse is coming in April, the total solar eclipse, which is the bookend. So it has to be some timing consideration from the gods about the bookends because it happened during the Dragon Chain pre-sale in 2017. This next one is coming in April next year. So
you know what? It could be the following year. This is a partial, Joe.
No.
There's two in a row.
The 24 is the one this year in October is.
Oh yeah.
Partial.
April, yeah.
April 24 is the total. Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't want to go see both, right? But it's an annular, I guess. This 23 one.
That's interesting. Yeah, 420 weekend. We'll have that's the SEC collapses and gets restructured on that eclipse.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Sean, anything you'd like to plug and let people know about?
I just put a video up for Truth Tuesday. Lisa took off, but I did a video on some of the weird things that happened to form the United States. How during the Revolutionary War there was, I think personally, not like divine intervention. There were so many stories and battles of just absolute evil, just freak terrible things that would happen, and then freak terrible things that would happen to fix it. Like the entire army was starving. Washington's army was starving. They had no food. Everything was frozen. And there was a freak thaw on the river, but only part of the river that went by their camp. And all the fish were channeled like right into their camp. They had tons of food, as soon as they started to have the starvation problems. The inoculations that no one knew about against the disease that was sweeping in. And then Washington's, weird vision where he saw the Civil War, or, the term union, all the stuff, manifest destiny, how he saw all that stuff happening. And then the stuff we're in now, where everything's falling apart, and it seems like the entire world is about to turn against us. Check that out. Also check out, just go to Spotify and your podcast places and check out Snowden. Check out, these people who put it all on the line, and go check out WikiLeaks and what's going on now. They're still there. They're not hyped as much because they are still there. So check them out, listen to them, and check out Dragon Chain's Legal Fund.
Great. Greg, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah. I'd like to sort of slide a little bit off of what Sean was doing there and just encourage everybody to learn about whistleblowers they don't know about. Go and find out people who are actually dissenting against the way things go, and you'll know them because they're being persecuted for it. And there'll probably be some kind of bullshit, hyped up sounding story standing between you and having any empathy for the free that person's name campaign. But every single one of them has a free hashtag, and I try to know as many of them as I can because the stories are equal parts infuriating and inspiring. And that's the kind of inspiration blockchain I think needs right now. It's sort of the inspiration that gave the cypherpunk movement it's real fighters. That's Assange, when he was a kid before he got any friends or himself arrested. Right, that dude was on the cypherpunks bulletin board and talking to everybody on the early internet. Same time. And we are at a place where we could get that back, or we could turn it into a hellscape of dystopia. And knowing these people and honoring what they actually fought for, whether you're talking to Aaron Schwartz or you're talking Julian Assange, you're talking fucking Ross Ulbricht, name your person who's locked up unfairly because they did something way too awesome for people in power to deal with. And that's where you'll find them. So go looking. I encourage you.
Dave, did you have something you wanted
I
to
was just going to revise my earlier thing. I shouldn't have told people to steal Edward's book. Libraries exist. You can still go read it. You can read it for free. Just go to the library and get it.
Second thing real quick, on WikiLeaks and fucking search Gary Gensler because you can watch him be a complete simp, sucking up for a job to the Hillary Clinton campaign. And you also get a pretty good sense of how he edits a document. So you get an idea of the kind of banality and big-headedness of this dude.
Yeah, sounds like we got a topic
it's really
for,
entertaining.
the after
Go read
show,
it.
don't
It's
we?
worth it.
Great. I'd love to plug I Am for I Am's contest that he has going on in the contest layer. It's on whether or not Trump will be convicted before the elections is what it is. It's a timeline-based contest, so we can check that out. Go in there and vote.
There's options.
Yeah.
Scroll down.
There's different options. Do you think he's guilty? Do you think he'll not be guilty? Do you think he'll be guilty by the time the election comes around? These are your options. Go in there and simply reply with one of them, and just that. Joe's already responded, put in his guess. Some of your favorite people. I put mine in here.
Convict Trump and put him in the same prison as Assange, and see what happens.
That would be great.
I think that
There's
might
no
be
way
it.
they're
That
going to
might
convict
be
him
what
unless
does
the
it.
whole thing is just a
That
fucking
might be
game
enough.
record.
My only complaint is that
Maybe that's what I'm counting on to win.
He did not require the posting of a meme along with your answer. That should be a foundational requirement to any such contest.
There you go. You know what? If you own matter in the contest layer or lot in the contest layer, go in there and make that one of the rules that if you were to post a contest, you must include a meme of some kind. It is nice that you put a visual here so we know exactly how this is going to work out for voting. So that's great. Thanks so much for doing this. I am for Am. And we can get rid of that. And thank you so much for tuning in. This has been World Blockchain Roundtable, Blockchain and Whistleblowers. Leave a comment for next week. Again, we're going to be talking about the Hinman emails or any other topic you want us to talk about. As a reminder, to share this episode, the more you share, the more our hosts and topic contributors will get. Like, comment, subscribe, and do all those things. Hang out, because after this, we are going to be talking about current events. Dave, you want to take us out? Or Amanda?
No, we got people for that.
Awesome.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.
Dave's gone.
But then he unmuted. Oh, no, that's the thing doing it. Cool. Fun show.
That was a good one.
Yeah. The audio portion worked out a little bit better than I wanted it to. So that was cool. But it worked out well.
It was great.
I wasn't sure. I've never used those audio things before, so I wanted to try it out. It's cool.
I wish we could do, frankly, when we're showing a video, to keep more like the what is it? Let's see if I can't find the format. No, not that format.
You mean like?
All right.
I guess you have to show something like if
I were to
could
present this,
yes,
you want like that.
If we could show the video like that instead of just being the whole thing, right?
It depends on how I show the video. I think if I show it as like a
shared tab, you can,
yeah. If it's a clip that I've uploaded, it does that. But if I share a tab, or I think if I like, I used to have video files everywhere.
I just asked the computer what movie Terry Crews and Dolph Lundgren starred in. 11 movies.
What?
They starred in 11 movies together.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That is kind of, that's surprising.
I wonder if this will work.
So I wasn't here last week.
Yeah.
Two Sean moments. That was nice. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. That was nice.
There you go.
Thank you, Greg. That was cool.
You're having an effect on us all. I was talking, Joe. You were talking earlier about the project to pull up nuclear subs, and they were saying they were like searching for gold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Lisa sent me something recently about a similar story about the Navy under the guise of helping to find the Titanic or something. We're trying to pull up some of our own equipment, some of our own subs in the 60s or something. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly what it was, but something like that. It makes sense to me. Like, you don't, like, it's a race at some point whenever you have something down there, and you don't want anything you can do to deflect and say, oh, no, we're not looking for things that you would find very valuable and that you want to come look. We're going to go look for the Titanic. There's no subs here, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing that I think gets me, though, beyond it just being the sea and stuff down there, is the ability for the nation state to use celebrity to push a psyop, because they did the same thing with with Lindbergh, right? That he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like, no, that was literally a psyop. They wanted him to go over there and be friendly so that they could learn what the hell was going on. And he dealt with it. He was like, oh, sure, he served his country that way. It's just a weird thing that
if it's effective, why would you not do that though? Why wouldn't you approach somebody and be like, hey, we got a thing we need you to sell this?
That's why I frankly, and I used to be a little bit less so, but I think my son has kind of convinced me. We're a republic. There shouldn't be any state secrets. Like damn the it's like
I agree.
Survive whatever. You think that somebody's going to come and sure.
Like keep your employment records secret. Keep your your employees' medical records secret. Keep private financial information of people in government who aren't operating on public funds.
What about the stuff?
Secret.
That one I'm not even sure about, but yeah.
What about right? Yeah. What about everything else, man? Why can't it just be open? I can see no disadvantage.
What about plans that would cost lives if they were to be not secret? There's got to be a line.
I
would be okay
what
if
a
there
plan
was
like
something
that look like.
But that's where you have the watchers watching the watchers. That's where the oversight committees have to be.
If such a plan exists, I think it would be a good reason.
And that's where we've fallen though. The intelligence community said, "Hey, let's just direct some of our surveillance to these guys, get some dirt on them, send them to Epstein Island or whatever." Whatever their thing is, we'll get them caught, and then we own them. Then we can do what we want.
It might cost more lives.
The technical answer to, like, say, a time-sensitive operation. We're about to invade. First of all, we shouldn't be invading. But let's say they have invaded Texas, and so we have to fight back. So sure, I would still say you should put something on chain. It should have a time delay, and it should come out. It's like, oh, holy shit, that's history. Okay, and we don't have some president being funny with whatever. But again, the real issue is that source of unlimited funds, because without that source of unlimited funds, guess what? You wouldn't have a significant portion of our congressional representation being literal intel agents. We know that several of the people who ran in the past several elections were former intel agents, right? And that's not something you should see in a republic. And
how many of them do we need for them to pay contractors to do all the hard work anyway? Like,
this is where I think that a robust infrastructure for legitimately, not just on paper like we have today, but for whistleblower protection and for avenues for whistleblowers to identify themselves by credential or by merit without their identity being revealed, to be able to drop information, because this is the counterbalance for if I was writing a little bit about this on the current thing layer. I have probably an unpopular opinion because it borders on sympathizing with propaganda. But if we're going to wield propaganda as a tool to fight wars, which we are currently doing, then to stop that from being turned inward to your own citizenry, to stop that being domestically wielded for political gain, for personal gain, for greed, you need things like whistleblower infrastructure so that people can say, hey, this motherfucker is abusing his power. Hey, this technology that we developed for defense or for offense to enemies that we've deemed to be our enemies is being turned inward. We need that to be the watchers who are watching the watchmen.
How bad has it gotten?
Well, and for anyone who says this is a bad idea or thinks you're being conspiratorial, like seriously, look at the last fucking 20 years.
Three-letter agencies, they have the power supposedly, and they have said we're scared to come out. I'm an agent of the FBI. I'm an agent of the IRS, and I am going to get screwed.
That's what I'm saying, though, is we need a better system that allows people that are good persons
I wasn't here last
to be able to disclose that.
But not this last Tuesday, but the Tuesday before. What I did the show with Lisa over was, I think the whole reason for all of this, everything that's wrong, goes back to Obama, and when he passed that bill that made it legal for our government to use propaganda on its own people. that had been
when they killed the line between the
right. So now when was the last time you heard about a story being wrong or a news agency doing something, and what's the fine from the FCC? No one even talks about the agency that police them. And that's because of that. That's because of that bill.
I would say,
now
though,
can use propaganda. The government can tell them what to say, and it's not illegal. And until 2013 or 14, you look back, it's when everything started happening, and everyone started hating each other for this this deep hatred. And you can't come to my, to Christmas if you like this person or that person. It was all like a year after he signed that bill.
Now, I happen to like Barack Obama, and that's one of the things I don't like. Another one that he simultaneously, I hate some of the things that he did. Though,
warrantless
because at the same time,
off of him.
That's the same person who assassinated extrajudiciously an American citizen with a drone strike. And you have these things that are sort of these landmark events where now they're saying, "Oh no,
you're supposed to get a trial."
Right. So now you're saying, "See you, John." Now you're saying like, "Oh, this is possible now," right? Before these events, oh no, you can't gaslight your own people. You can't use the weapons and tools like propaganda against your own people. Sure, you can. Oh, you can't just assassinate an American citizen. That's like globally. Other countries were afraid to fuck with Americans because they were like, "Oh no, America doesn't screw around with its own citizens." Now we kind of do. So it erodes that sort of legitimacy of government when you do that, and I hate that happened, because regardless of what that fucker did or what he was accused of, that is not the way we do shit. But now it kind of is. It happened at least once, so now it's on the table.
Well, the whole thing with the government telling social media what to do, that's part of it. They wouldn't have been allowed to do that. And I've said this for the past year, America's dead. It's finished. It's over. It's all too rotten to keep, except the Supreme Court. It's the only thing holding the country together. The only thing holding the republic is the Supreme Court. And now that they came out and they did that again about the government can't tell social media what to do, AOC and other Congress people are saying that, this is so wrong in the Supreme Court, we're going to have to spank them and change that. They're literally acting like there's one power, and it's Congress, and that the president is under it, and that the Supreme Court is under it. And that's not the way it works. Again, you guys do what you want and screw around, and the Supreme Court is the supreme.
The worst part is the fucking administrative state.
The year that all this started was 1913. And that's when the unlimited funding happened. And because that's an educational issue, civics. I mean, people aren't taught civics. They're not taught Latin. They're not taught Greek. They're not.
Fucking Alexander Hamilton kind of started this one.
Branches of government. Yeah, it's a big mess, and it's all because they have any amount of money they need to do anything they want to do. So
that's another thing about the Civil War that people didn't, or the Revolution that people don't know. Washington got a letter that said, "Hey, our money is being very devalued. We have to have some wins, or our money is going to be worthless." And when I found that out and I read that letter, I was like, "Whoa, that's weird." It just ties in with the whole like nothing changes kind of thing. It was so important, It's like, hey, people can die or whatever, but
I will say, when I first started looking into Bitcoin, that was one of the things amongst other things, like say, unlike gold, one of the more interesting things about Bitcoin is that it is a predictable mining. Gold, you've had issues where this, Spanish galleons would come over and they crash the market because they brought in so much gold. There's no way to predict how much gold could be brought out of the ground. And as an absolute, because you could meteorites or something. But
dude, the first day someone marks a gold meteor in fucking orbit, the price of gold is done.
Yes, but here's the thing: the crazy thing is that I somewhat suspected, and maybe this is a little bit of what we're experiencing, that given these currencies, potentially you could see them, you could consider them to be at war with each other. I mean, and I would dare say that their unlimited funding greatly crippled Bitcoin's ability to do what it was meant to do. it can't do at scale what it was supposed to do. And so, store of value is not really a threat. I would say, tick one, that's, a score for.
Although an ETF might be a threat.
What's that?
Or the ETF might be a threat. If they approve that fucking ETF, I feel like that's going to allow them a lot more access.
Well, I would say almost absolutely it will be a threat. I think the entire intent of any ETF, especially any that would get through, would be paper. They're gonna make it all paper. You're not going to be buying the normies are not going to be buying real Bitcoin. They're just like
I've still
gold and silver.
labored under a long-standing belief no one's been able to convince me otherwise of that. The entire apparent volatility in the price of crypto, like we don't need stable coins. What we need to do is we need to stop indexing it and thinking of its value in terms of a hyperdeflationary or hyperdeflationary asset.
Totally. That's the total truth.
It's not that Bitcoin is changing value very much. It's that the dollar's losing it so rapidly it appears to be going up really fast.
That's totally true. Yeah, and then I don't know what there's several neat ideas of what you would price it in. Is it a basket? Is it, just priced in gold? Is it just, is it priced in something else? I don't know.
Yeah, those pricings are just measurements of preference, though. Yeah. When you're pricing one thing against the other, all you're really saying is what is the public preference of this asset over this one. Mm-hmm. It isn't necessarily that it's like value is a thing. Like there's a finite amount of value that exists, kind of thing, and everything else is just shifting in what its share of that value is. Whenever you print a bunch of money to fund some sort of whatever you're funding and you're just printing it all, you're not really creating any value. You're taking
lost, though.
Yeah, well, there's also time.
Lost. I don't see
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine trying to explain value and how inflation's not real. And I always make this comparison. It's what gets everybody. I was like, Ford used to pay people in gold. And then they started giving people the option of gold or, US dollars. And like in the early 1900s, like a regular line worker, basic, just putting stuff together, made like it was like 2 ounces of gold, or I think it was 3 ounces of gold. And that was a certain standard of living. And now that same job pays like, $60,000 a year. Or like $6,000 a month or something like that, which is equivalent to like 3 ounces of gold. So it's that job pay scale never changed when it came to, it hasn't changed at all. And then they said, so that person never got a raise. And I'm like, well, why do you get a raise every year? It was because you got to keep up with inflation. Yeah. Which is that's why that pay has went up so much, because it was like 3 ounces of gold or $400 back then. Now it's $6,000.
Right.
We're still. I heard someone suggest. I heard someone suggest recently that inflation should be instead of like this all-encompassing number that applies to the whole nation. It should be like a weather map, where in different regions it's like inflation's worse over here, and inflation's better over here.
Sort of like the Cantillon effect, chaos wave.
Inflation feels different depending on where you are.
Yeah, because it's because the inflation is, I don't know. It's like you know how much was they know how much was printed, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they could literally.
Inflation is still a side effect of manipulated supply. Period.
Greg hit it. Right? We saw recently how easily they can manipulate the system, where eggs went from like $1 to like $6 in a span of a few months.
Or like if you think about oil, right? A barrel of oil, 1 unit of oil on a futures market, that thing will go up from $60 to $90, and it filters through the whole supply chain.
Remember when it went negative?
But the dollar's doing that separately too, right? So the Fed's putting more or taking some out, and 1 unit of dollar is worth like a variable degree of valuable good because they keep adding and changing the supply. It's not obvious to you when you use it, but over like the last 20 years, the last 10 years, it's like
it's the hidden tax.
Is now worth $33,000 of purchasing power in the same year.
Yeah, it's the hidden, absolutely involuntary theft or tax is, that's the way it works.
Hey guys, I'm gonna dip out early. I'm still kind of under the weather, so I'm gonna.
Yeah,
no worries, man.
Thanks. This has been great. I really enjoyed the whistleblower conversation, and I think that there's a lot of application to decentralized infrastructure when it comes to that. And I think that the direct application or the solution for who watches the Watchmen is that it's circular. Like we can, humans with enough people together, there's going to be a few good ones in there that'll say something. So allowing those people to say something in a way that keeps them safe is very important. So that's all I'll say.
Unconstitutional amendment, we can force our government to pin itself to a fucking blockchain.
That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
I'm heading out to y'all. Take care.
Man. Bye.
All right. Bye. It's just Joe and Greg.
How long you want to stick around, Greg? What do you want to talk about?
Let's keep talking. I'm curious what's up lately.
Very good. Very good. So, what do you think? There's too much to probably cover, but
I learned about a new individual who's in peril because of state. Apparently, there is a reporter who is a pretty strong agitator for the cause of the dissident narrative in Malaysia. Around, I think it's Burma now, but it was Myanmar for a while.
Is it the? I think I might know who you are talking about. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I found out about this journalist who just was telling the story, and just now they're disappeared into someplace probably pretty terrible.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that. Wow, I knew of it probably is the same guy they were trying to say he was an agitator and a terrorist and various other things.
They say the same thing about everybody who does this.
It's crazy. The word terrorism, and I think it's lost its power over the past few years. So, but
I personally think they're just trying to build up for domestic drone strikes, honestly.
Jeez. I can see that happening. It's freaking disgusting and sad, but
they have that one type of firearm that doesn't explode instead of samurai swords. They'll take out one car and not leave collateral damage.
God,
that's the one they would use here.
Yep. It's like, oh, you're cooking out on Memorial Day. No, that's bad for the environment, citizen.
Well, you forgot to put Ukrainian flag in your Twitter profile. The drones are coming for you.
The Ring doorbell picked up you saying some particular word that we cannot say here, but you're.
Are you familiar with the guy they just appointed to the one of the foreign policy advisory councils?
No.
He's like old neocon, like a old neocon. What is this dude's name? Hang on, I gotta find
Bill Crystal.
No, it's worse than Bill Crystal. Higher up in the Nosferatu architecture of the neocon's leadership.
Zbigniew Brzezinski. Who else is still alive?
He was part of the Iran-Contra affair.
Really?
He praised the mass murder. This guy's just fucking. He's almost as charming as that big Yosemite Sam Mustachio dude who was suspiciously named like a singer everybody sort of loathes.
Man, that's by the way some of the more interesting things in politics in the past since the Trump era has been the neocon movement, and it's just weird, amazing to me how it really isn't philosophical. It is literally about we need to kill more people and spend more money doing it.
Right, and we don't care which party sides with us.
Yes, yeah, it's crazy. So
they're just like, nope, not conservative anymore.
This
guy doesn't want war now,
and that's why it's come. I anytime anybody tries to frame something that way, I mean, I have to say, well, wait a minute. There's
Elliot Abrams
left. Oh, geez, yeah.
Elliot Abrams is back.
Wow, man. I don't even remember what he looks like. I remember his name. Anyway, it's left, right, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican. None of that's real. None of it is. It is all, where the money's, who's paying them and where the money's flowing. and what kind of kickbacks they're getting,
It's
and which
it's
role
like
they're
the
supposed to play.
statists and the fucking authoritarians all hanging out together, wanting to expand the thing, and everybody else wanting to shrink it.
Yeah. And the fact, the fact whether it's WikiLeaks, I mean, we didn't even mention, and some people might not like them. I don't like their production style, for one, because it's so annoying to watch, is O'Keefe. And as O'Keefe Media Group now, used to be Project Veritas, right? I don't like the way they do, because they like repeat the same thing, because it's like, come on, just
got rid of the guy who
give me the raw, give me the edited,
that was pretty
right?
stupid.
But the fact that he's attacked so well, I don't know, but it's still, I enjoy seeing things where these people think, oh, they're meeting with other cool people and they're bragging about this stuff, and it's really, it's like, wait a minute, that's illegal, that's immoral, that's unethical, you're a scumbag. But over a drink with a girl or something, they'll spout out all of it. So I think that's an amazing thing, and it's very similar to what happened with Assange in terms of the information flow that they don't like. So
I feel like he made a lot of people who once upon a time were really legit committed to the values of being a good reporter, who look at a guy like that doing what he does and don't get like a little bit too envious for their own good, to where the shade board comes out when they see a chance to start kicking it.
That's the truth. And that's, by the way, total respect for Greenwald. The stuff that he still does, I'm still amazed at the consistency with which he puts the info out, and he's, I don't know where he finds himself politically right now at all, but the fact that he's putting the information out that is probably the most important information is super interesting.
Well,
so, and
he was dropping some more NSA leaks too. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I'm assuming he's, that's why he's not in the States, or at least in certain countries in the West. But he's been lucky, I think, to stay outside of any attacks, physical attacks. So
yeah. Well, I mean, dude, I'm sure that somebody at the SEC gets paid to watch this show and fucking transcribe all of the shit we say.
Yep.
I hope some of it hurts. Yeah, you can quote me on that, underline it, and point an arrow to your boss's name if you want to, whoever's annotating this right now.
There's a more than one 4chan meme related to the FBI agents that are, that have to monitor the threads, and how often they are likely converted. To say, well, it's like, what? I didn't know that. Start looking into it.
What floors me is that anybody thinks that they see one part of the government act corrupt and that they don't believe the rest of it's also acting corrupt too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's
obvious. Not a good thing going on there that isn't people leaving for the day so they stop doing more harm.
Yeah. But I spent a great deal of time as a contractor, but with a full clearance at FBI and DoD. And I was kind of, how do I say, the most interesting thing was culture shock coming from commercial world, where everything is deliver. You have to make stuff work, and it has to be in operations, and it has as fast as you can, right? You go to the FBI, and it's like, whoa, slow down, buddy. It has to, and there's some amount in the engineering side of respect you have, because they're like, nope. You can't.
If you work too fast, you get fired from a government agency.
Yes,
eventually.
yeah. Well, and
that happened to me once. So,
yeah. Well, see, and yet I was surprised that as straight-laced as there are, and some of those people are black and white, straight-laced, ethics, and really, they have my respect, that they really believe their job and the oath they took. But then you have a good handful that don't give a shit about that. And they're usually the ones that are higher up, not always, that end up, they work out some deal. Hey, yeah, of course, IBM or BEA or somebody will get this contract. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, they retired to that very company. Surprise. It's just a funny thing that goes on, and you're like, oh yeah, it's corrupt. And
no, it's super corrupt.
And the whistleblower laws don't protect a contractor in the same way that they would an employee. So as a contracting firm, especially,
you start throwing in corporate board lock as a concept for people, and you realize that like most of the most established companies have the same rough mix of board of directors from like a jury pool set. Like not very many people are being shuffled around so that there's a different mix of them running every company that you're allowed to buy on the public markets.
Yep.
Right. Like,
and so, by the way, here's one other prediction that I didn't think about when we were bringing up the Howard Hughes incident. My bet is that at some point in the next decade, that Musk will directly call out asteroid mining, and that other nation states will spend trillions. China, India, whoever will spend trillions trying to copy that, and it'll be entirely an psyop. So that's my guess, my bet.
Dude, I'm totally gonna start an asteroid mining company next. Honestly,
you probably get some investment.
As silly as it sounds, that's my next plan. Like as soon as I have all this other stuff dusted and done, I'm seriously just gonna try to send a robot into space.
Why not?
And have it like wrap a parachute around an asteroid and drag it back to Earth. That's the plan. And that is a really rough plan. That is an absurd description of a much more subtle mechanism that sounds a lot fancier when you use the proper words. But it's essentially a robot with a parachute and a thruster.
That's hilarious, man. What else? What else should we cover? Whistleblowers. We need more whistleblowers from the SEC. I still can't believe that nobody's popped out of. I've heard enough from former commissioners in private about how. This was in the early days of Dragon Chain, how corrupt some of that was. And I took note, but I was like, really? Where, cocktail parties and shared secrets and, money under the table, you guys need to look at this or that. And it's all because those former commissioners are, paid. They're probably not even registered lobbyists, but they're paid by, law firms, venture capitalist firms, banks, so on, to essentially help herd the SEC bureaucrats, right? Because and most of the bureaucrats, and this is one of the early things that I kind of suspected, and I verified with other some of the big law firms and stuff that yes, everybody there. Is there because it's their route to an actual well-paying job on the outside. That if they can score enough points, they could dictate enough money for their exit into whatever.
Or they make enough positive press for the candidate up to them, and that person, if they can, will promote you into somebody else's. Like that's literally the exchange Gensler's having with Clinton. In that email thread on WikiLeaks, you can read it.
You have to show me which one. I looked them up. I don't know. There's so many, right? So I can't remember.
I'll send you the. Actually, have it on IPS in a PDF. I think.
Nice.
I took it off. I'm a little annoyed because I can't share. Yeah, that's the other thing. This noted. Does anybody else notice you can't share IPS links on Twitter anymore?
It's junk. I saw that. I saw your tweet. About
it blocks you actively. It tells you that this is suspicious content. I really would hope that this isn't Elon being an intentional dick to decentralize stuff. But I wouldn't put it past him. He's done it before.
Yeah. Well, and I like Elon. I love. There's a bunch of cool stuff he's doing. Obviously, I bought a Tesla. I wish I could buy a SpaceX rocket in the future. Right. I think
feel like
all
he
the
somehow
things
doesn't see that our industry is not a scam yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think there's a lot of how do I say? It's just like with any of these people. It's like they're not. It's celebrity. They're not what you might paint them as. They're not a freaking. I don't think he's a genius. I think he's a very smart person.
Yeah, he's dedicated to a task.
Very dedicated,
and a goal.
And he's
more
very
of a zealot
too,
than he is a genius, I would say.
And what he's going after, like his selection of companies that he has gotten into, is brilliant, right?
It's a great model.
Some of the things he's doing with Twitter is like, I think in an afternoon we could have come up with a better idea than that, right? I mean, this.
Though, as a space designer, he is a pretty good rocket scientist. I would admit, like, they're going to get that fucking skyscraper into orbit. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
and it's mostly his drafting.
I think that's on priorities and structure too, because he's like, he knows it's like, no, we need a cheap way to make this repeated. We have to make thousands of these. We can't make 10. We have to make thousands of these. We have to be able to exit Mother Earth, right? That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, we need one to send to Mars and one to serve as a refueling tender for the one we need to send to Mars, and we need them to fly out simultaneously so that we save time.
But and that's, frankly, probably the biggest difference between an individual leader and a committee. Because if you're going to put it through a committee, you're going to end up with a space shuttle. And yes, it's impressive and it's cool, but it's freaking expensive and what's the word I want to say? Prone, right? So anyway, it's
and all the old Raytheon guys hate the shit out of the guy, right?
It could be Asperger's, yes.
So it doesn't help, but and I don't know where we got off on this tangent precisely, but it seems like a lot of these types of forces are what people are distracted by right now to me. And the really scary things that people ought to be paying attention to are the things that they can't bring themselves to focus on, even though they're important. Like, people should be watching the Fed. People should be watching the Treasury Department. We should be watching those people like a hawk. Gensler should be under a microscope. That fucking tornado cash shit should have been a national scandal.
Yes, it should have been. And I'll tell you one thing that surprised me, and God bless the XRP army, because the stuff that happened with Gensler, with Hinman's son, with that freaking whatever that actor dude was that gosh, I can't even remember the name of the company that was funded by the Chinese that was brought out, the SEC.
Oh yeah, you're talking about fucking
Prometheum. So
that
blew up in their face more than they fucking expected. They would have never put that guy up there if they would have known that people were going to look into this shit, because I didn't even know that this Chinese Communist Party fund was heavily involved in the founding of Ethereum, including they were the ones that handled all the initial token distro and stuff. I'm like, what? How did I not know that? And by the way, and I posted this on Twitter, if you look at my thread, where I was very, very proud that I got Vitalik, because I have a lot of respect for Vitalik to respond to me about the Zoom, the new Zoom issue.
He built a pretty amazing architectural program for this thing.
Yes, but the fact that he was defending Zoom after they had already been knowingly lying about their spying on people, and that you say, "Oh, this is great," and I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Sure, they're announcing this is great marketing, but if you're just going to, as an engineer, if you're going to accept Zoom, who's already done what they've done, saying that, oh, now it's all encrypted and we can't watch your stuff, without open sourcing something or at least showing some evidence of that." And he's like, no, I think he said that would be going too far, and you have to take it for it's. I can get
Dude,
it's not. I'm not asking for perfection.
Software had been a fucking thing when they wrote the Constitution.
Yes.
A mandatory clause, not in the Bill of Rights. We're talking in the structure of fucking government.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They would have literally written in mandatory disclosures.
And by the way, in the coming times, that is the most important thing that needs to be brought up whenever we reset. Because when this reset happens, if we don't do that, we're fucking idiots. We have to.
We need more Fourth Amendment. This more ironclad this time around.
Yep.
We obviously clearly need a stronger First and Second Amendment.
Yep.
And we absolutely need to figure out that the 10th Amendment means something.
Yep. And it needs to be. It's like, okay, dispense with the poetry. It needs to be so absolutely cogent and in fact, the smart contract needs to be the dictating factor. The English is just there for normies to interpret what the smart contract is, but that literally, we need something that's ironclad, that we don't need some judge to decide one way or another. It's like, no, you run the code with here's the inputs.
Right. Well, and not to put too fine a point on it, but the administration of things, i.e., what the administrative state does, is highly automatable on blockchain. That's the thing that scares them the most about, is we can literally take a whole bunch of assholes and replace them with an app that runs itself.
Exactly. You don't need, I mean, and think about it. Even in the current state of things, clear rules would make a huge difference economically and legally for our industry and for other industries. But they don't want that, obviously.
Dude is fucking telling the truth from a certain point of view when he says that they are being clear. Because you can follow the fucking chain of citations where he cites himself and he cites himself and then he cites a speech where the speech starts off with him talking about the storied history of the SEC. And in that speech, he pulls off some reference to fucking Thurgood Marshall in a little-known 1990 case where they basically said, that Howey test thing doesn't work for a certain type of investment asset because some of them are and some of them aren't. A convertible note, right, can be a security.
Yep.
But not all convertible notes are securities.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying this is not within the SEC's purview, said, legislative history suggests this is expansive. And we're going to go ahead and just invent a new test called the family similarity test. And what this test does is allows us to eject inconvenient elements of Howey.
Yeah.
Right? And all they're going to do is try to take this fucking same test that they used for convertible notes and apply it to crypto tokens. And the reason that you'll never get any precedent out of them is because it's all case by case to this day with convertible notes too.
And that is, by the way, why we need a reset, because the fact that this is so unclear to a normal person who isn't a lawyer, number one, that's a clear indicator. It's
that's
also
a sneak attack, though, to expand power definitely.
Yeah, well, and it's also so indeterminate, that how inefficient is this legal system that we have to go through unknown circuitous routes to get to an answer when, a smart contract could, and the beauty is if the smart contract could say, I don't know an answer to that. That's a new, this crypto thing didn't exist when I was written. I can't answer it. You need a new one. And then it's okay. There is no ruling until Congress decides, oh, holy crap, we better do something. Right. So, and
even
hopefully
then, it's
you would
still
end
gonna
up
be
with, hopefully you would end up with more engineers than lawyers in Congress. Right. That would be another beautiful thing because frankly, I know engineers and I've always surprised. I've been an expert witness before. I've again worked at the FBI, I've worked at Lockheed before, and it has always surprised the business people in the room and the legal people how far I could get in answering a question and or fixing an unfixable situation. And every single time, I tell you, it was because they're engineers. They're engineers. They have a known driver. They want to build something that works.
What do you think the defining characteristic of the engineering process is?
Yeah.
Just straight, if you put in one sentence, engineering in one lesson for the masses, what would you say?
Basically to solve a problem. They are there to find the most efficient and or the most right way to solve a problem, right? That's what they want.
Exactly. And they just go about it by trying something, testing the result, and trying until they get to a measured result that they want.
And some of them are definitely better than others, and some teams are better than others, but it doesn't matter. If you get engineers there, even the worst engineers will still come up with an answer. And it is almost always a better answer if it is unpolluted with corporate politics or whatever else. They'll say, well, this is the right. And the biggest problem that businesses have and government, frankly, in leveraging that power and the power of software, frankly, is that they don't quite understand that because they don't live by those rules. They live by the political rules. And when you go in there and anybody who's in a career in government and engineering or big corporate engineering, it's a huge advantage to be honest and to be able to say, look, they want to build this. You're telling them they can't. And oftentimes what I learned, and it took me a while to learn to tell my bosses, look, I'm always going to tell you the answer. Just make sure you don't take offense. And I'm going to tell you, look, you don't have to take this route, but I can give you 12 other routes, right? But the point is you have to be able to give them 12 answers because the engineer never knows all the layers of politics, right?
Right,
so,
because if you give them the one quickest answer you can come up with, like you would if you were trying to be as agile as humanly possible, right?
Yeah.
You would end up slowing the process down. Everybody trips over it when they work with the government because if you don't give them enough horses to trade in the argument about which solution they all decide to agree on, then the process fails by default. Like they need to argue with one another over the pony they picked, because every time one of their answers wins, they get career points.
Yeah, they have to be able.
That's the currency of fucking politics and political entrepreneurship.
It really does work. If you tell them, look, here's the most efficient, as we know now. It might not, when we learn more, it might not be, but this is the best path I can give you right now. And the funny thing is, the way that I would win favor was making sure I told him, look, no offense, this is the way, and I'm going to tell you that this is going to be the way. And a lot of times they wouldn't believe you. After a while, it's hilarious because these guys, and I had to be careful because anything I said, that was it. They would believe it, right? Because I was always right. And it was never like, say, this is what's going to happen. It was always, this is what you want. This is how you should want it built. And, we'll probably have to navigate around that path, but it's useful. So anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, and Austin, Beth, and I, once upon a time, that was how we got to work together. Was
really,
dealing with a gigantic legislative agency bureaucracy, selling them or delivering product to them that the owner of that company overcommitted way too much, too fast, without too much thought, and really screwed us over because he forgot that one of the agencies that was selling product to is staffed mostly with attorneys. So if there was a contract question or a gray area in scope, you gotta have your shit together. Otherwise you're going to get distracted. People are going to yell at you and then the project's going to fail. Right. It's kind of ridiculous.
I will say that is another piece that's really effective. Because I had been an entrepreneur for so long, so I could interpret the business to the engineers and the engineers to the business. And then, when I was at Lockheed, I got really deep into analyzing the different open source licensing because they had obviously extremely particular requirements about the licensing. And I got so good at it that when I went to Disney, one of the big reasons we could get Dragon Chain out the door open source is because I was already kind of embedded as the guy for the open source committee that could interpret the lawyers to the engineers and back. That I could go and tell the engineer, they just need to know X, Y, Z. And the engineer is like, well, obviously, yes, right? And it's like, okay, that's all you need to tell them, right? And
exactly, just get them to agree that this is the best path because it's the most obvious. And it's like, it's a weird, you have to convince everybody that the idea that is the right one is good, and you have to take a longer time than one ought to have to do that in any other context. It's because they don't have any price signals. There's no profit motive. Everybody's operating on not getting chewed out as opposed to what they might gain.
Okay, we need to go. We have
we absolutely
a minute and a half. I'm gonna Amanda's gonna play it out, right? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.